For 100 days, Syrians have been demonstrating against the regime of President Bashar al-Assad. The protests show no signs of easing, and neither do authorities' attempts to quell them. NGOs say more than 1,300 people have been killed since the movement's start on March 15th.
There was panic in Damascus. Bashar al-Assad no longer dared to leave his house. People were coming from the suburbs, from the north and south of the country. So Hassan Nasrallah was instructed to intervene.
We're allied with Syria. Hezbollah is a Syrian ally. Iran is a Syrian ally. So, of course, Imam Ali Khamenei's decision gave us the strength to do the right thing.
Nasrallah at first isn't so happy about it, but when the message comes from the office of the Supreme Leader, that's the end of the conversation. And they go.
I had this gun with me in Syria. We were the elite troops. My son was still a child. He also joined the special forces.
قوات الجيش السوري قوات حزب الله تتقدم. تحياتي كبير. تحياتنا. بإذن الله كلكم شهداء.
3,000 soldiers became 5, then 6,000.
It's completely a new Hezbollah because it's a regular army with surface-to-air missiles and units. Well, they become a real military.
Project Cassandra identified a component known as the business affairs component. Their primary role was to establish the drug trafficking operations to generate the revenue. They had the conflict in Syria, so they had to have the money.
8 tons of cocaine worth €500 million was seized.
We had a really successful 2014 against the Hezbollah, culminating over a course of 3 weeks of us seizing over 8 tons of cocaine out of the port in Rotterdam.
Suddenly, Hezbollah is not resisting Israel, it's just butchering fellow Muslims. Suddenly, it's involved in a deeply sectarian conflict.
These people are like the mafia, like the guys who sit around the table with Tony Soprano.
From 2010, France became the preferred refuge for Hezbollah operatives. The country had several advantages, including a large Lebanese community that made the operatives less conspicuous, and freedom of movement throughout most of Europe. Paris was chosen as the hub for Hezbollah's money laundering operations. The US Drug Enforcement Administration, or D.E.A., alerted the French police, and together they began a new chapter of Project Cassandra. They dubbed it Operation Cedar, after Lebanon's national symbol.
Operation Cedar was a spin-off investigation under the umbrella of Project Cassandra. Operation Cedar focused on the European network.
The leaders of now our operations in Europe is really Captain Mugg and his team.
Le chef de poste de la D.E.A. à Paris me contacte en me disant voilà, il y a...
The head of the D.E.A. in Paris informed me of a network of Lebanese operatives in Europe. They were very active, collecting, laundering and transferring drug money. They'd suffered big financial losses and were looking to set up in France. That was a concern because it would worsen the security situation.
Ce qui est un peu vexant pour nous, considérant que la France serait plus sûre.
The US investigators gave me a phone number. They said it belonged to the courier who collected the money.
So really, I think within 24 hours, they identified that phone as belonging to Mohammed Nur al-Din.
Mohamed Noureddin, c'est quand même quelqu'un dont les locaux professionnels...
Mohamed Noureddin had his offices in the Beirut Stock Exchange.
De Beirut. C'est pas quelqu'un qui se cache.
He certainly wasn't in hiding. He was well respected.
Certaine stature.
Our investigation began by wiretapping the telephone number.
On va le mettre sur écoute, tout simplement.
We got hundreds of hours' worth of recordings and transcripts. It was all about money. He was planning to collect in Paris €1 million per week. The handovers were fast. People passed bags to each other without even counting the cash. They trusted each other. It might be €450,000. They had codes. A Mercedes 500 meant €500,000. A truck meant $1 million.
Le collecteur se déplace et il va aller...
The handovers would happen in an underground parking garage, or at a restaurant, or even on the street.
Lorsque nous-mêmes nous avons participé à tout ça...
Once a car pulled up on the Champs-Élysées, right next to one of our agents, and the money changed hands.
L'échange a eu lieu et puis voilà.
They'd also buy and sell watches. One of Noureddin's men would buy luxury watches and pay in cash. He spent over €30 million in a year. We're talking Rolex, Patek Philippe or Audemars Piguet. One Patek Philippe watch was purchased in cash for €700,000. The watches were then transported to Lebanon. They used import-export companies. It all looked perfectly legal.
He was a guy who was trusted to move very large amounts of money and oversee couriers who were carrying back money, sometimes just in Samsonites on, planes flying out of Charles de Gaulle back to Beirut. Air France, literally. These guys carry these Samsonites with millions of dollars, a couple $1 million in each Samsonite.
In cash?
Cash, it wasn't always like that, but sometimes it was that ridiculous. He was a super facilitator for drug money, make its way from Europe back to Lebanon, no doubt.
Ce que je vois sur mon territoire, moi, là,
from what I saw at the time, it didn't seem like Hezbollah. These people weren't especially religious. They were more likely hanging out in Paris's Golden Triangle, drinking aged whiskey in the Plaza Athénée bar, than going to mosque. That's what I saw.
France appears in some ways to be their command and control center for their activities in the rest of Europe.
While French police were uncovering Mohammed Noureddin's network, Project Cassandra's American agents were following the trail of laundered money to Lebanon and beyond. That trail led them to arms traffickers in Eastern Europe. The former socialist republics were awash with weapons inherited from the Soviet Union. Among the DEA's targets was a kingpin in the drug trafficking world, a Lebanese citizen with connections in Ukraine and Russia.
The agents call me up and they go, "Hey, have you ever heard of this Ali Fayed guy?" And I go, "Have I ever heard of Ali Fayed? Yeah, the guy's really significant. He's moving weapons for Iran and Hezbollah into the Middle East."
Ali Fayed was a well-known, well-documented arms dealer who was working with Russians and Ukrainian arms dealers to provide Hezbollah weapons, right? And these guys, they were going to provide, RPGs, AK rifles, surface-to-air missiles. They had access to the most sophisticated weapon systems in the world.
Once you get the charges against a guy like Fayed, you have to figure out what country can we arrest him. And that country also has to have an extradition treaty with the United States. And we identified Prague in the Czech Republic.
We infiltrated the network with our informants who portrayed themselves as members of the FARC in Colombia that needed weapons to kill Americans. And of course, Ali Fayed and his conspirators were looking to get cocaine also. So we had a cocaine for weapons deal.
So the operational plan was to do the arrest as he exited the room in the hallway of the hotel. So the room was wired up for video and audio. And then at one point, one of the sources says, we want anti-aircraft missiles to kill Americans in Colombia. And then after we kill these Americans, I'll cut off one of the Americans' heads and I will present it to you, Ali Fayed, as a present. And Ali Fayed jumped up from the couch and went over and hugged the undercover.
Ali Fayed is one of 3 foreigners arrested by Czech police in April 2014 at a hotel in Prague. The U.S. believes he intended to sell weapons to Colombian terrorists and traffic drugs. Ali Fayed's lawyer says his client works for the Lebanese Secret Service.
If we get this guy to the States, then he's going to be maybe our main witness to take out Hezbollah's drug cartel. There's only one thing that could get in the way of his extradition, is if Czech military intelligence gets involved. Military intelligence is very much under the influence still of Russia and Putin. And that could cause a major problem in the extradition of Fayed.
The arrest of Ali Fayed was a major triumph for the US Drug Enforcement Administration. The arms dealer was privy to sensitive information about the war in Syria. He was at the heart of the military alliance between Hezbollah, Iran and Russia, set up with the aim of keeping Bashar al-Assad in power. But the DEA was walking into a minefield. Hezbollah's criminal networks were being protected by Moscow. The longer the war went on, the more vital Hezbollah fighters became, and the greater their need was for weapons. The price of this military campaign could be counted in coffins being sent back to Lebanon.
When the first Hezbollah fighters were killed, a cemetery opened for the so-called martyrs who were falling in Syria.
Hezbollah suffered nearly 3,000 deaths, and twice as many were injured. Altogether, nearly 10,000 families were affected. That's a lot of people.
You're keeping an eye on the meat?
Of course. Shall we pray after we eat?
Or before, if you like.
No, no. What beautiful food. Come, my darlings, sit down. Thanks for all your hard work. First, I had 3 girls. I was very happy about that. But I also wanted to have a boy or 2, because it would make me happy to be able to send them to jihad. When my son sent me these pictures, I suddenly sensed that I'd never see him again. That all I'd have left would be this footage. But I said, "My son, you told me you wanted to die a martyr, but not so fast. I wish you'd waited a while longer." Glory to you, my son. You're braver than I am.
A part of the mothers who were crying over their sons, I mean, I'm sure they were convinced, but I also believe that others must have doubts. It's how far indoctrination can go, but from history we also know it can go very far.
For me, the day of my son's funeral was a celebration. I wasn't sad. Maybe today I'm a little sad, but back then I wasn't. Not at all.
أبدا أبدا.
Hezbollah should know that Iran will fight to the last Hezbollah member. You know, look what happened in Syria. All the Hezbollah members died. How many Iranians died? Not many. What did they get in return? Not much. They come back to their bankrupt economy, bankrupt banking system. Their ports explodes. I mean, it's like Dante's gates of hell, you know. But we could go further down the cycle. You know, there's more gates that we can approach here in the future.
The war in Syria profoundly changed the way many Lebanese people thought of Hezbollah. Once considered heroic resistance fighters, they now came to be seen as an army of mercenaries. The party leadership had also changed. The phone calls picked up by the French-US wiretapping operation sounded like something out of the mafia. Conversations about drugs, weapons and money.
Mohamed Noureddin had plans to come to France, and we were waiting for him. We also arrested members of his network in luxury hotels in Paris, their homes in Germany, in Italy and elsewhere. He denied everything. He said he hadn't collected or laundered money. He did own up to things he couldn't deny, but he played down his own role in them.
We found out that the cocaine proceeds that Nur al-Din was coordinating at that time was the main funding mechanism to provide financial support to Hezbollah's purchase of arms out of Eastern Europe and Russia to send to Syria, basically.
After 8 years of investigation, the agents of Project Cassandra had finally reached their goal. They had exposed a secret organization within Hezbollah in charge of coordinating funding for the war in Syria and, more broadly, all of the party's clandestine military operations.
We were receiving information about this shadowy group within Hezbollah. And we'd hear things like, oh, they're called the financial unit. They're called the banking unit.
Jack Kelly and the team in Project Cassandra identified a component known as the business affairs component. So we started putting together the pieces of the puzzle using all the experts that we had in the US government.
What's going on here? How do you connect all these dots? You know, it's like trying to solve a mystery. And remember, we have to provide evidence.
Basically, the business affairs components had different things they want to do. They want to move cocaine. They want to launder money. They want to sell or buy weapons. This business affairs component got hundreds of companies.
And we mapped out, we know where those companies are. They're all over the world, even some in the United States. It functioned as this funnel to control all these secret bank accounts all over Lebanon and all over the world, actually. Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, Paris.
Business affairs component makes probably over $1 billion a year in criminal proceeds. We have that backed up by records that we got out of Lebanese Canadian Bank.
This is the financing of terror.
We found out that the cocaine proceeds that Nur al-Din was coordinating was under the leadership directly of Adham Tabaja.
Adham Tabaja was one of the main guys involved with the business affairs component.
Tabaja, en fait, c'est l'entrepreneur.
Tabaja was an important Lebanese businessman. He owned a large construction company. He had ties to Mohammed Noor-ad-Din.
Is one of the lead financiers of the rebuilding of Hezbollah neighborhoods and infrastructure in Lebanon after the 2006 war.
And who's the guy who's the money master for them? Well, Abdallah Safi al-Din. We'll call him the financial godfather, certainly, the business godfather.
Abdullah Safi al-Din was Hezbollah's ambassador to Iran. Obviously, Abdullah Safi al-Din had connections in very high levels of the Iranian government.
What Tehran needs Hezbollah to do, Abdallah Safi al-Din runs it. His clan is basically Hezbollah royalty.
Abdallah Safi al-Din has a brother who's the executive director of Hezbollah. And there's rumors that he would be a successor to Nasrallah.
Once you get to their level, you're above being a Hezbollah member. I mean, I know that sounds strange because people are literally saying, well, where's their membership card? I'm like, they don't need a membership card. You know, when someone sees their face, they're like, come right on in, you know, I mean.
So when you find, as US investigators did, Abdullah Safi al-Din involved in illicit financial activities from Iraq to South America to Europe, coming up over and over again, like that gets your attention.
It appeared viable that we could actually make a case against Abdallah Safi al-Din and perhaps arrest him. We could do this if people let us do that.
Project Cassandra was approaching the moment of truth. If US investigators got the green light to arrest Abdallah Safi al-Din, they would be able to take down Hezbollah's covert leadership. But at that moment, political winds were changing. The United States had begun to negotiate with Iran over a deal to rein in the Islamic Republic's nuclear program. And Iran was Hezbollah's longtime backer.
Philosophically, Project Cassandra became a problem. Our actions became a problem.
Very good and productive, but still we have lots of work to do. So tomorrow we will continue? Tomorrow we will continue, yes.
Iranians started to complain about it in the talks. I've heard this from people who are there. They complained. They said these D.E.A. people are past, you should control them. They're out of control. That's usually what you do want to shut somebody down.
Today, after 2 years of negotiations, the United States, together with our international partners, has achieved something that decades of animosity has not. A comprehensive long-term deal with Iran that will prevent it from obtaining a nuclear weapon. This deal demonstrates that American diplomacy can bring about real and meaningful change. Change that makes our country and the world safer and more secure.
Barack Obama signed the nuclear agreement with Iran, a move largely welcomed by the international community. With the ink on the deal barely dry, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani began a triumphant tour of Europe, including a stop in France. After the dirty war of the 1980s, this was a celebration of the return of economic diplomacy.
Today, President Rouhani is in Paris. It's been 17 years since an Iranian president visited France.
The same day, Special Agent Jack Kelly also landed in Paris to mark the dismantling of Mohammed Noureddin's money laundering network. An official ceremony had been organised at French police headquarters. The D.E.A. was about to reveal the existence of the secret business affairs component within Hezbollah.
It was going to be what I really thought was a fitting end to Cassandra. The top French law enforcement official was going to give us a champagne toast as a success for this incredible Operation Cedar under Project Cassandra. So I'm there for that, and then I'm kind of looking at the judge and the prosecutors and the cops, and it's like, what's going on? They're mentioning, yeah, we think the press conference definitely was canceled, and the press release was postponed.
France and Iran side by side. Companies like Airbus, Peugeot, Vinci, and Bouygues signed contracts worth tens of billions of dollars.
Around 30 contracts were signed today with a value of 15 billion euros, including deals with SNCF, Total, Peugeot, and Airbus. Plenty of reasons for French business leaders to applaud the Iranian president.
I'm watching it on TV at the bar of the Trocadero Hotel, and I'm getting these calls and text messages saying, yeah, everything's canceled. It was a horrible day. I couldn't believe it. Right at the same time, I'm getting information that either Ali Fayed had been released from the Czech Republic to Lebanon.
Ali Fayed was wanted by the US for serious crimes, but this afternoon he was released and returned to Lebanon.
Ali Fayed, he went back to Lebanon. We never got him in America. The US government system failed. There was no engagement. So how do you explain that? I know what my investigative gut feeling is telling me. He was a member of Hezbollah, and they were in the middle of an Iran deal. That's my opinion. I don't have the smoking gun, but I have an opinion. I've been doing this a long time. I think the entire Project Cassandra scared many people around the world. it has been sacrificed for politics.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Président. Nice to see you again. Nice to see you. Did you sleep well? Yes.
When I met Asher in 2008, he told me really from the beginning, Jack, I want to tell you right now, ultimately, I can guarantee you that somewhere along the way, the White House, whoever's White House it is going to shut us down. Because if we get to where I think we're going to get, it's going to be too much for some people. And that's exactly what happened to me. And his prediction was true.
You know, I told Jack, the higher up you go, the more people know, the more they're going to want to stop this. Right when we were in the jaws of victory, victory was snatched from us.
And I also knew right at the same time that I'd just been transferred via memo out of Special Operations Division off of Project Cassandra to a desk job at headquarters. So I decided to go to my favorite cafe and drink red wine.
Hezbollah had won. The DEA's Project Cassandra was buried, sacrificed in the name of Realpolitik. For the United States, the hope of peace with Iran was more important than dismantling the hidden structures within Hezbollah.
Cassandra was part of Greek mythology, is that she was warning leaders of impending catastrophes and disasters, and her warnings would always get ignored, and then the disasters and catastrophes would eventually happen. So Cassandra was always right, but nobody paid attention to her, and they would dismiss her, and they were skeptical.
Was Project Cassandra the last opportunity to put an end to Hezbollah's seeming impunity? Then came August 4th, 2020. The massive explosion at Beirut's port shocked the Lebanese capital. In the aftermath of the disaster, citizens turned against their leaders, and especially against the all-powerful Secretary-General of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah. The Lebanese people demanded truth and justice.
What really happened? How could 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate be stored in a building at the port?
The same substance caused an explosion in a factory in the French city of Toulouse in 2001.
Which criminal brought the ammonium nitrate there? Who stored it at the port? Who hid it?
This hangar was controlled by the Hezbollah. This everybody knows, as well as the airport is controlled by Hezbollah.
We know Hezbollah has secret access to the port, what's known as Fatima's Door, to bypass controls. Hezbollah is more powerful than the Lebanese government. Nobody dares to take them on.
Behind this negligence is a bigger crime that nobody wants to expose.
The explosion killed nearly 220 people and left more than 6,000 injured. Beirut was left scarred. And yet, despite the extent of the disaster, attempts to find out who was responsible only led to more questions.
The official story is short and simple. There is a ship that came from Georgia to Lebanon. It was supposed to carry on to Mozambique, but it couldn't make it. So they removed the ammonium nitrate and they kept it in the warehouse. This is the story, the official story. Ammonium nitrate is usually used either as a fertilizer or as an explosive. You know, the shipment that came to Lebanon, it was clear even on the bags that it was high density. It was written on the bags. So it was meant to be used as an explosive. So this shipment stayed in the port for 7 years. Unfortunately, everybody knew about it, but nobody took any action. What I discovered during my investigations is, first of all, that Savaro was the company that in the beginning appeared to be the owner of the ammonium nitrate. This company is kind of a shell company, which means it's a company where you don't know the real owner. Later on, I discovered that there are many links between Savaro and Syrian businessmen, Mudalla al-Khouri and Imad Khouri, his brother, and George Haswani.
We don't know Savaro. We've never heard of it before this. We didn't even know that it had the same address as our company. I know that I have nothing whatsoever to do with this matter. There's nothing for me to worry about.
George Haswani met several times the Syrian president, and Mudallal and Imad Khouri had several companies and factories in Syria and in Russia. In those two countries, it's not easy to reach the level where those guys reached in their business and in their wealth without being close to those in power, whether in Syria or in Russia. Most probably, this shipment was meant to reach in one way or another Syria in the time when the war was at its peak.
الله أكبر الله أكبر
Studies done by the FBI actually said that according to the calculations they had done, what exploded in the port of Beirut was somewhere between 500 to 700 tons of ammonium nitrate.
If all 2,700 tons had exploded, the entire capital would have been razed to the ground. Who had been using those thousands of tons? Who took the material out of Beirut, out of Lebanon?
Who do you think it was?
Syria and Hezbollah.
I don't want to get involved in anything political. I hinted for possible links, okay? I was not killed, at least until now.
We're joined by political analyst Lokman Salim.
Lokman Salim also hinted.
In Lebanon, the main suspects are those who stored the ammonium nitrate in Beirut's port.
The suspects are the ones who control everything. In other words, the Hezbollah militia. You just have to look at what it was used for.
Lokman made Hezbollah responsible for transporting the ammonium nitrate to Syria. Yeah, he was putting the puzzle together. Today everybody is saying it. In January, Lokman was the first to say it.
What we have here is a puzzle where all the pieces have been put together.
La journée d'hier au Liban devait être marquée par les
6 months after the Beirut port explosion, another drama has shocked Lebanon. Well-known commentator Lokman Salim was found dead in southern Lebanon, having been shot 6 times in the head. Why was he killed? What message was being sent? All eyes are on Hezbollah, which controls southern Lebanon, where Salim was killed.
Do you know how Lokman was killed?
Yes, but I cannot. Yes, he was killed by 6 shots. It seems they have been very professional. Hello. Moi, je suis vaccinée. Moi aussi. Happy to see you.
Merci, Amar. I came several times, but you were.
It's as if he's just gone travelling and would return.
I want justice, and I need to know who did it, who planned it, and who gave the order. With the port explosion and the execution of Lokman, there is something which is broken. No, you cannot go back to normal life. You cannot go back and let the political game win. No, we need, for both, we need accountability.
We may never know the truth behind the Beirut port explosion. When 2 Lebanese judges tried to investigate the matter, they faced threats and their inquiries were halted. And despite demonstrations by the Lebanese people, Hezbollah has opposed any international investigation.
Whether the Lebanese people will be able to know the complete truth, I doubt.
Don't even try. It'll never happen. You'll be long in the grave centuries from now, and there will not be an answer to it.
Hezbollah cannot simultaneously be an army fighting against Israel, a ruthless militia targeting civilians in Syria, and a respectable political party in Lebanon. It mustn't delude itself into thinking it's stronger than it actually is. Hezbollah has built up and imposed a system of terror.
Macron put it well. So long as Hezbollah continues to engage in international terrorism, acts of assassination in Lebanon, illicit financial activity, undermining the stability of the Lebanese financial system, so long as Hezbollah engages in all those activities, it is an outlaw actor and needs to be treated as such.
And yet the group looks set to continue acting with impunity. 40 years ago, Hezbollah's aim was to impose Sharia, or Islamic law, in Lebanon. Instead, it ended up creating a state within a state, a kind of Hezbollah land that's more powerful than the government and whose actions have very real consequences for the Lebanese people.
We are living here in Lebanon in a culture of impunity. You can kill, you can commit massacres, you can commit crimes, you can do whatever you want. In the end, nothing is happening.
What happened to Chekri Harb?
He's out of jail. I know he was in South America, and I think he might have went back to Lebanon, but I'm not sure.
Ayman Juma?
He's never been caught. So he's in Lebanon. I'm sure he travels to other places. We just don't hear about it.
Ali Karoubi?
Ali Karoubi, I don't think, never arrested, not jailed.
Ali Fayed?
Ali Fayed, he's certainly not in jail.
Adam Tabaja?
Adam Tabaja, not in jail.
Safieddine?
Never indicted, never captured, never arrested. Still the Hezbollah ambassador to Tehran, as far as I know.